Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody in between. My name is Kexman, and you are here for the first episode of the Dragonflight Consortium, where we talk all about what has been going on in the alpha over the past week. And this week, I am joined by Towelliee and Mr. GM. Mr. GM, thank you so much for swinging by today. I imagine it's been a pretty busy week for you over the past couple of days.
I've been away a couple days. On the weekend, and then I was away before that as well. But yeah, no, I finally got into the alpha this week, or finally played around with it, and it's been all right. Pretty fast paced because I was having a really good time in one zone, and now I've been dragged into another. And but yeah, no, it's been good. It's been busy. Lots of videos, lots of streams. Yeah, standard
Yeah,
stuff, really.
good. I mean, you mentioned, we'll touch upon that sort of later on in regards to being dragged from zone to zone and the pace of it. I mean, we were talking just before we came, just before we started the recording, Towelliee, catching up on naps, catching up on sleep. I imagine it's just been as busy for yourself, as we all have been over the past few days.
Yeah, it's been pretty nonstop since the early preview. It's just been like 8-9 hours sleep, wake up, get some videos up, stream again, sleep, stream. It's like I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't know what time of the day it is anymore. I just have people, my girlfriend just telling me, "Hey, you have to do this. Hey, you have to wake up. Hey, you got to do this," because I'm just like all over the place. So yeah, it's been pretty busy, but it's fun. I'm loving every single second of it. I think for us streamers and content creators, this is like the best time of the year. Every time it happens, it's like
it's our Christmas.
It's our time. It's our time. Yeah, it's Christmas.
Exactly. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It does feel like sleep, edit, stream, repeat is what's been happening over the past couple of days. So let's just dive straight into it. Obviously, we've seen two builds now, so we'll talk a little bit about the first build where As Your Span was brought out. I didn't actually get a chance to play As Your Span. I was at TwitchCon EU, but from the both of you, what was is there anything that really stood out to you in As Your Span that made it feel like, oh, this is Dragonflight, this is new, this is definitely different from Shadowlands? Well, Towelliee, we'll come to you first. How did you feel about it?
First thing I thought was, my God, this place is huge. I didn't really understand the scale of how big and beautiful the entire zone was until I actually started wandering around. I did a little dragon riding, which for me has been so far probably one of the biggest highlights of the alpha. But I did a whole dragon ride from one side of As Your Span to the other in about maybe 40-45 seconds. And then I just went on a ground mount from one side to the other, and it was like 10 to 15 minutes to get from one side to the other. And I was like, oh my God, this place is so huge. And it's just been a great experience. But I think that's the first thing that hit me really hard was just the massive scale of maybe the possibility of the size of this expansion that we haven't seen in quite some time. Is maybe like Northrend or whatnot.
I think there was actually the map that was data mined, put together from data miners. To me, it actually looks slightly bigger than Northrend, which is huge. Obviously, you have done data mining yourself, Dan. It's how has the data mining been with such a quick paced? Obviously builds that we've been seeing. That first build that came out must have been, again, a goldmine to get through all of that information and also play the beta at the same time.
Yeah, I kind of obviously got the data, I think, because we did the super secret, not so secret NDA thing beforehand. So I had the data from like the Tuesday, and I was kind of looking at it, but there are people much smarter than me that can look into a lot more than me. So I was just looking around the normal stuff. And then when it came on Thursday, I honestly, because I was releasing the Ian interview that I did on the Thursday, and then I didn't get into the alpha, or I did get into the alpha, but my launcher had messed up, so I didn't think I did. And it was already pretty late, so I ended up going to bed. Then I had to go to Nice the next day, till Monday or Sunday night. So I didn't even get a chance to it. And even now, I haven't like fully gone through it. There's a lot of stuff there. Like it's unbelievable. I think it was like 21,000 files or something disgusting. And even now, like people, because Blizzard have kind of changed the way that they do the file stuff. Like a lot of the files don't have file names anymore. So say if it's a model of an otter, back in the day, there'll be like something inside the file that'll say like, oh, otter mount or something like that. But now we like, Steven and Marleman and people like that in the data mining community have to name it themselves. So a lot of the stuff we don't know, like if a major character model comes up that we don't know the character, we don't know what to call it. You know, you just call it whatever. It's just a bunch of numbers. So that's kind of been the most, I guess, frustrating thing for not like for data mining this time around, which are some of the reason why I haven't done a lot, to be honest. But yeah, I think once it gets into like, because that first build is just so overwhelming, you just don't want to look at it. So like, then you just start looking at like builds every time they come on a Tuesday. But yeah, still, even now, as I said, you know, it's just been more so playing it like than actually digging into it for me. It's been a lot of fun just finding little tidbits here and there. I guess one thing I found today that was a lot of like kind of funny thinking about it. It's like because of the new level cap in pre-patch, I didn't even think about this, but in pre-patch, all the BFA stuff's gonna be level 60. So I went to Colteros and everything was level 60. I went into Island Expeditions and it was all level 60. I was like, oh crap. So yeah, that's a whole thing. But yeah, no, it's been fun. I love early alpha is like the best time because everything's so broken.
Oh yeah, everything. I think it was you put up a screenshot of the call from obviously Nefarian, the evoker call, and it was just immediately kicked out of the game. Crit error. That's gonna be the call from Nefarian. You know, you touched upon it, Towelliee, the dragon riding that we've seen so far. I think it is. I've had a little play around with it. You know, the first big feature coming out of Dragonflight so far. I played around with it, obviously on the Evoker. Wasn't able to do it on the actual mounts, but it's effectively the same thing. I think it's safe to say that is probably that's got to be a death knell for regular flying, right? That has to be.
Oh, you mean like we're not going to just want to just fly around anymore on our regular mounts, and we're just going to want to dragon ride all day? Yeah, that's pretty true. It's so good. It's so fun. I think
it
that's
is.
the first thing people want to do now is get on Blizzard's behind about, okay, when are we going to get this on all of our mounts in every zone, from every expansion? Come on, give it to us.
I mean, they did release something about the dragon riding where they mentioned they didn't want it to encroach upon what flying was. But for me, dragon riding just seems so much more fun than flying, so much more engaging than flying. They said that, you know, they don't want to have an issue where it's players, you know, they mount up, they fly 5 feet and then they land again to mine a node or something along those sort of lines. Could you see a world down where flying is replaced potentially with you know, with what we see in dragon riding?
It's a funny thing because I didn't even I realized you asked me a question about like Azure span and everything like that. I just completely didn't even answer it. So I'm gonna say yes. Azure
There's
span
so much to go through.
Loved it.
There's so much to go through.
Grizzly Hill vibes. The dragon riding is super sick. The actual proper dragon riding is pretty good. And obviously the version that we got in the first build was like the first version that you get when you get to the Dragon Isle. So obviously it's gonna get crazier. I think I unlocked a barrel roll after a little bit, which was kind of fun. Yeah, no, it's interesting because you're like, oh yeah, that's fine, you know, put it on all the amounts, and then you think like the logistics of it, I guess, in a sense. How would that work with all like different types of mounts and everything like that? Would they just? I don't know. It's an interesting thought. I want them to do it, obviously, right? I think the dragon riding is a really fun way of flying, and the way that it uses momentum and things, and obviously just, you know, on a Dracthyr, as you said, you know, you can go into the old world and fly around and do your old, you know, soaring or whatever, which has been funny because like you go around, I don't know, like Stormwind, and you're like flying through like the little gaps and things, and it's like just feels really, really nice to move around. But yeah, I think dragon riding is really cool.
It is nice. I mean, I leapt off Mount Hyjal earlier on. Leapt off Mount Hyjal with Soar, and it was fantastic, just absolutely bulleting towards the ground, swooping back up. It feels really bad if you mistime it, though, and you just land. Like, you're like, yeah, I've got so much momentum. You go for the swoop, and then you just land, and you're like, oh, well, now I've got to wait 5 minutes, which is really annoying.
Yeah, its cooldown is awful.
I was just about to say, the 5-minute the evoker starting area.
Yeah. Feels rough.
That's painful. It would be nicer if they just had... They've got some of those crystals that will reset your cooldowns dotted around the place for various different abilities. Just have those dotted around the place for Soar. Like, that would make the evoker starting... you know, the evoker starting thing feel really good. And while we're on, you know, features, dragon riding, evokers, have either of you had chance to do any proper sort of like testing with the evokers, either damage or healing at all?
I played it a little bit. Like can't really like casters that much, honestly, so it didn't really gel with me. But I felt like after doing the starting zone, I felt a little bit better with it because it gave you, it kind of like gave you the spell. Because it's a bit overwhelming when you get chucked a load of spells. But to be honest, the evoker rotation is what, like 5 spells, if that. But yeah, it's interesting. The empowered stuff's cool. I like the fact that you can change the settings, so you don't have to hold it down. You can do like a press and press again sort of thing, which is nice. But yeah, it's been cool. It's really weird, like the model of it, right? It just doesn't feel like WoW. And then I thought, to be honest, it's probably what we thought in Pandaria, and now pandas are just like kind of standard, and demon hunters and all that kind of jazz. So to be honest, it's all right. But I'm not rushing to play it when it comes out. Like I'll play it on beta and alpha, but I'm probably not gonna main one or anything like that on live.
Yeah, Towelliee, any experience with the evokers yet? Have you ran any of the new dungeons with them?
No, I've been healed by the evokers and have had DPS. During the Azure Span week, I played almost the entire week. I played evoker. I liked it a lot. It's pretty fun. And this is coming from a guy who I can't stand mages. I hate playing casters. And I played evoker, and I was like, okay, this is kind of cool because just like the whole maneuverability, of like the devastation spec is so much fun. It's like you're channeling, you're dotting everything up, you're doing the fire breath, you're going along the ground. Still kind of getting used to like the whole telegraphing of it because it kind of seems way more different than any of the other classes in the game. And then I tried healing, and that just didn't work out. I just can't heal, but the spells sound so amazing. I'm trying to like watch some content creators' healers tutorial for what is it called, the preservation spec, just so I can learn it, because it might be just like the first healer that I just tried and heal with in the next expansion. I'm hoping it's fun.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, I'm in the same boat. I warrior for 17 years. I have nothing but Zug Zug on the brain, and then going into a caster is a very, very different feeling. And specifically preservation, I've looked at some of the spells. I haven't tried to heal with it yet, but it is, you see some people going in that have obviously got years and years of healing experience, and they just seem to pick it up so quickly, and you're sat there going, how have you been able to do that so fast? Because I was looking at my spells going, I have no idea which spell to use when. It'll be interesting to see how it fits in the meta. I've done so since the new build came out. Obviously there are 2 new dungeons, and I've been playing Evoker DPS, like playing the devastation throughout that, or destruction, I can't remember what they call it, but playing the DPS spec through there, and it has been very, very fun. And there's 2 very distinct builds that you can do with that new talent system, which I think we can all agree that new talent system is a welcome addition, because it adds so much more variety to the classes that you're playing. Even though not all the classes are in at the moment, I'm still waiting for the warrior trees, but yeah, I think this is a good step forward for the game, bringing these back in at this point in time. I don't know whether you've had a look at the hunter talents at the moment, whether or not there's anything there that speaks to you, Dan.
I love it, honestly. I made my own hunter, like all the spells that I like, and then I added some extra ones like Wailing Arrow from the Sylvanas bow and some other bits and pieces that I'd not had for a while. But there was the one, it's funny actually, because I've been a Necrolord marksman hunter because I really hate metas apparently, for the entire expansion. And the one Covenant spell that went over was the Necrolord spell. So I'm like, oh, brilliant. I never used Wild Spirits or anything like that. I never really gelled with it, to be honest. But yeah, it's been nice to have basically the same rotation as such, with some maybe extra little bits and pieces to it. But yeah, the talent trees in general have been really nice. I'd imagine you probably haven't done anything because there's no warrior trees, so you've just been using the old talents for the entire alpha.
Yep. Just been using the old talents that are there. I'm waiting. I'm seeing data mine stuff coming through. Blood and Thunder's coming back, which I'm ecstatic about. Looks like we're getting a slightly reworked Odin's Fury, which I'm really looking forward to. Anything on the horizon for you, Towelliee, in regards to talent trees? Anything you're really waiting to see if it's going to appear? Any abilities you want to come back for Dragonflight for any classes?
Oh, Paladin. I'm waiting for the Paladin and a prop Paladin talent tree, so I can just get into that. Once that comes out, I don't know anything else really. That and Brewmaster as well. So I'm hoping Divine Toll makes it back from Shadowlands, and I'm hoping we see some pretty cool Legion artifact nodes, and maybe even like their special ability from Legion, because it seems like that's what we're dealing with the talent tree. It's like 3 years worth of borrowed power, just like all just mixed into one big, huge 61-point talent tree. And it's been so much fun. I think this might be one of those expansions where people are just gonna like a build a bear company. You're just like building your spec. And today, as I was running dungeons on the stream on some of the tanks, I'm like, all right, well, I'm doing this build on the bear. Well, now I want to try this build. Well, now I want to try this build. So it's like 4 or 5 different builds you could just try just running dungeons. That's just one category of WoW. Still got like raids and PvP and outdoor exploration you can build for. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, it does feel like, and you mentioned there, you had like various different things you could try. Right, okay, I've done this dungeon with these talents. Let's try and do this dungeon with these talents. I think one of the best things is, yes, there are probably going to be like cookie cutter meta builds out there, and Dan's going to ignore them, or you're going to have, you know. But the beauty is it feels to me, especially with the trees that we have seen so far, that it feels like there are no wrong choices. It doesn't feel like anything is a wrong choice so far, which I'm very, very happy with, because that is going to add so much customization to each character. Each class is going to feel different from, you know, all the other ones. So very, very excited for that. Really looking forward to it. And, you know, we are waiting currently for some of the other ones to come out. What do we, any ideas of what we expect to come out next, Dan? Do you think there's anything that is expected to be soon?
Oh yeah, I mean, you see it, right? So like, as you said, you know, you saw some warrior stuff. So when you kind of actively see a lot more of one class, it's probably likely it's going to be the next one. So I expect warrior next. I see a lot of people asking for paladin. I want to do paladin too. I like paladin a lot. Red paladin is fun. I want to see Ashen. What's it called? Ashen Verdict? Is that what it's called? So the big AoE thing from the
Ashen Hallow.
Hallow, thank you. That's the one. Yeah, that's a cool ability. I like that. It probably won't turn up though. But it's yeah, no, I think it's when you see like Wowhead data mining a lot of like class changes and things, that's when it kind of comes along. It's really weird actually. I really wasn't expecting them to have the old talent trees as well as the new ones in the game at the same time. I just thought they were going to disable the classes straight up. So I was pretty surprised to see that, to be honest. But I don't know how broken some of those classes are with their old talent trees. But I guess they haven't really changed them at all, I presume. They're probably working exactly as they were. But yeah, I think, I don't know. I hope they do more. Like, what was it, Shaman this week? And I think, like,
yes.
Yeah, I hope they do like 2 next week or something like that. I mean, we got, 6 phases of alpha? We're on phase 2. Presumably, you know, a couple a week, and then they'll go into beta. With Blizzard, I know before they said, like, you know, alpha is an unfinished product and beta is polished, so presumably we should get everything within the next 4 weeks.
Yeah.
That's the hope. That is the hope. Sort of sticking with, you know, we briefly touched upon the Evoker and how, you know, how they played. The starting zone was unlocked this week. Outside of the issue with movement, outside of the issue, obviously, Saw taking 5 minutes and then you spend the rest of the time running around. How did we find the starting zone? Towelliee, I'll come to you first. Was there anything, did you think it was a pretty solid starting zone? Did it do what it needed to do for Evokers?
I think so. Yeah, I think if you we're reading all the quest texts for even the side quests and the little mini stories on the side and the main story itself, it all made sense. I think they introduced the Dragtheer pretty well. I'm not sure how spoilery we're gonna get on here. I'm not sure if it's allowed, but there's certain members of aspects came around and it got really exciting. I think there was like a little bit of a boring patch, and I would say like in the middle of that entire quest line, because I couldn't really get from point A to point B as fast as I wanted to because of the 5-minute cooldown on Source. So that kind of really kind of tilted me a little bit during the stream. I was like, oh my god, the story's getting so good. I just want to get to this other mountain, and I gotta sit here at the bottom of the rock and wait like 5 minutes to get to the other side. This sucks. But I really like the pacing of it. I would say it's probably my second out of all the new classes we've gotten in the last since Wrath of the Lich King, since Death Knights. I say it's my second favorite to the DK area.
Yeah, no, that's probably, I think that's a fair assessment. It does feel like it has a very, very good story going through, and then unfortunately the Saw issue. You mentioned the side quest there. Did you do any of the side quests? Did you do all of the side quests, Dan? Did you
wait, there was more than one? I only did the baby Tuskar one.
Thank you. So you mentioned that when I saw that on stream, I was like, this is the best quest I've ever seen. Like the quest awesome. Text, the title of it just called Help. Like it was It was so much fun. I love that, and it's one of those nice things where it does. Obviously, we know that Tuskar are making a return in Dragonflight, and it's nice that it ties the world that we've seen, or the area, the Drakthir are in, right into the rest of Azeroth, because we know the Tuskar from Wrath of the Lich King. You know, that was really, really nice. Was there anything else that jumped out at you, Dan, about the Evoker starting zone, or is it very much the same story of just let us soar more?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, the soaring would have been good. I think it was quite fun. I thought it was good. I think it was creative. It wasn't the one thing I didn't want. I'll be honest, is the cutscenes. I didn't want to see them. I wish they were all just gone or placeholder or something like that. Obviously, you know, it made sense. There is a couple big cutscenes that Captain Exposition tells you about, which sound awesome. Obviously, I thought the coolest thing, and again, I don't know how spoiler it is to say this, but it kind of introduced you to the first raid of Dragonfly as well, or at least the kind of bad people of that raid, which I thought was really cool. So that's going to be interesting to kind of, you know, go into that, and presumably we're going to go back to the Forbidden Reach in a patch, or, you know, some sort of content, maybe even during Dragonflight, like the 10.0, I don't know, because we've not been over to the Waking Shores or anywhere like that sort of way. But the Waking Shore, the actual zone that is opposite the Forbidden Reach, is the first zone of Dragon Isles. So
I think that's next week as well. I think.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll be able to dive obviously into that one and get stuck in. Alongside the Evoker starting zone, we had the 2 dungeons. I know we ran some last night, Dan. Towelliee, I know that you've definitely ran some. I saw you talking about it, obviously on Twitter and on Discord. So you know, thoughts on those dungeons. We'll start with you first, Towelliee. Obviously, Neltharis and Uldaman, 2 very, very different dungeons. But how did you feel? How did you feel going through those?
They felt pretty good. I mean, Uldaman, it's been in the game already, so it's kind of just like a lot of like reused assets from the original Uldaman, more linear, more streamlined. I prefer this version because it's faster to get through. But you know, as someone who does like a lot of like high end Mythic rating and Mythic Plus, I the first thing I always think about is like, how is this going to handle like in the like a Mythic Plus 15 or Mythic Plus 20 for like how big it is. But it's pretty epic, man. You got like the Lost Vikings in there, some really cool gear drops there as well, and the aesthetic is pretty familiar. Whereas Neltharis was much more fun for me because it's brand new. Like Uldaman, we've done already in the past for any of us who have played since vanilla. When I went into Neltharis, I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then you have what's the name of that race in there anyway? The Kalazi or something?
Something like the Quasi, yeah, something along those.
What?
The Fire Vikel people, yeah, the big fire people.
Yeah, the big giant like.
It begins with a Q. You're right. It is called that.
I think it is something like Quasi or something along those lines.
Kalazi, I think, or something like that. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. It kind of reminds you like Mr. Pandaria when you first start seeing like the Klaxi and all these other new enemies you never seen before. And I like that dungeon because it was fast, it was quick, it had some really cool bosses, and it just kind of felt better. It felt like, okay, this is like a Dragon Isles dungeon, whereas Uldaman is kind of just like, you know, here's a nostalgic trip, but with a really cool storyline, you know, involving like the Infinite Dragonflight, because they seem to butt their noses into everything we do in every expansion nowadays. So, but yeah, I would say definitely Neltharis was probably my favorite of the 2 so far.
Yeah, Neltharis was good fun. Obviously, tuning is still a little bit off. I think there's definitely some changes made there. This is just to make sure that these dungeons do work. But I think the standout for me, the bosses that we've seen so far, they all have very, you know, they have little things inside their fights that you can do to make the fight easier. For example, I think it's the second boss, depending on how you do it, of Neltharis, you can actually he throws a spear down and you're chained to the spear. You can use the chain to trip them up. I think you can, at the moment, you can effectively keep him perma-CC'd with it, which is probably going to be changed at some point.
Yeah, for
sure. But yeah, I think Uldaman definitely does feel... it feels like something familiar, but also new at the same time. Obviously, we ran through a couple of the heroics as well last night. Dan, any thoughts on the 2 dungeons that we've seen so far?
I don't like Emberon. It's not a fun fight. It's not
Ember
fun.
on hurts. That's one of those ones where the tuning of the AoE does need to be, I think, although
20k ticks on normal, like what the heck, like.
I think it has been tuned. I was running it earlier on, and I don't know whether it was because I was, I don't know whether it was because it was a different healer or what, but I did play it earlier on, and it didn't feel as bad. I think it may have been slightly tweaked, but yeah.
The Evoker healer I had in a pug absolutely hated it because we kept running away, and it wasn't like the range wasn't enough. And yeah, that was rough. But other than that, I mean, I think they're really creative with some of the boss fights. The Viking thing is cool with the little boat they come out on. The Trog guy with the totem that you really have to focus on very quickly. And obviously, I thought the weakest of all of the bosses that we've seen so far is actually probably the last boss of Alderman. I actually thought it was kind of a bit disappointing, I guess, in a sense. Like, I don't know, it wasn't like a lot going on. Kind of had shades of was it End Time, the one with Morrison?
Yes.
Yeah, a little bit like that. But yeah, I thought it was, might need something else going on with it, especially considering like how hectic Emberon was and things like that. But yeah, that Neltheris dungeon is awesome. Like, it just looks cool, very BRD and sort of was it the World of Dragonflight had one as well? It was with the ogres.
Yes, Bloodmaw Slag Mines.
That's the one. Yeah, that bit of vibes of that really, which I thought was really cool. There was that boss. There's actually an epic that drops on one of the bosses. I haven't seen it yet, but it is on the journal, which is I think you described it as the Painsmith boss, right? Like, it's kind of similar.
Yes. Yeah. And it has. I think the epic is the Forge Smasher, which I think it's a one-handed weapon. Gives you I think it's a chance to proc like a fiery smash that does fire damage. It looks pretty cool. I mean, yeah, the boss is the second. I think the third boss, the Forge boss from Neltheris, is my favorite out of all of them. And you touched upon it there. The end bosses, they do of both dungeons, both Neltheris and Uldaman. They almost fall short of the other bosses. It feels like they're missing an ability, or it feels like there's that they need one thing extra to go through that. And hopefully with feedback that may change. You mentioned Mythic Plus. I think Uldaman on a Mythic Plus week is going to be horrific. I think it'll be very, very scary. I mean, those corridors with Sanguine or equivalent of Sanguine or Bursting. I mean, even the bosses with Tyrannical or Fortified, it's going to be relatively scary. But when we get the testing for that, it will be interesting to see both which dungeons they choose, because only 4 of them are going to be chosen for that first season, and B, what affixes we get on top of that.
Yeah, I don't think Uldaman makes it to season 1. That seems like one of those like 43-minute Mythic Plus dungeon goals. Everyone's just gonna ignore it unless there's like some really amazing loot, which there is, because the Lost Vikings trinket is like so good, and I think it's broken, and they're probably gonna fix it. It's like on a 1-minute CD, and it does so much damage. And I'm like, oh, there's no way they leave this in the game for a 1-minute CD. And then I thought to myself, oh man, if I really want this on a high level, I got to like run this dungeon too on Mythic Plus. Unfortunate.
Yeah, I did it the other day. I was looking through all the raid, and the Mythic Plus is going, right, okay, I need that. I'm gonna need that. I'm gonna need this, and then seeing where it come from and going, oh, well, that's just going to be really unfortunate, then, isn't it? Seeing how that plays out. Is there any anything? I mean, obviously, with the 2 dungeons that we have seen, they feel really good. From here on out, testing wise, have we ever had a history? I mean, we've seen Halondrus previously was changed drastically through PTR, but have we ever seen dungeons changed quite drastically in any of the alpha or betas that you can remember, Dan?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, they change stuff like, especially nowadays. I feel like they're way more open to feedback. Like, they changed evokers within like a week of people asking for stuff. Like, they were pretty on it. So hopefully, they'll see some feedback and things like that. But as you said, I mean, they are doing, I believe they're hotfixing the alpha all the time. So they are doing, scaling stuff and changing different abilities and whatnot all the time. So yeah, I mean, there's been times where we've had sweeping changes over complete bosses. So yeah, it's not out the realms of possibility for sure. If enough people hate it, then they'll probably make some changes.
If enough people hate it, is wow, that means everything's going to be changed. One more thing that I want to touch upon before we kind of have a general overlook of how the alpha is going at the moment is something that I think a lot of people have not really seen yet, and it's a very, very small change, but it's had a really nice impact on the game. Have either of you two checked out the new menus yet?
Yeah. Like, have.
I don't like them.
I don't
You
like
don't
them
like
either,
'em?
man. I hate it.
Really? Oh, I love them.
No,
It
it's
just
like
seems...
I feel like a mobile game or a console game or something. It's a bit.
Yes, yes,
they're a bit-
exactly.
they're a bit clunky.
That's... Yeah, I looked at it and I'm like, I guess I'm getting used to it now because we're so used to the same kind of settings menu or interface menu. I just don't like the whole like kind of like scrolling down through everything. I kind of just like choosing my categories and then just seeing everything on the right, but just like scrolling down through everything. And it's like I just got to get used to it, I guess, because they're obviously not going to revert it. I think this is one of those like you can scream as much as you want the feedback. They're not changing it back. But if I were to ask for them, hey, you know what? Can we just get a classic version of it?
Like a toggle function.
Yeah,
Classic
like,
menus.
Classic menus. Can I toggle it back so I can go ahead and look at it the way I used to?
There'll be an add-on.
I mean, asking.
I'll make an add-on for it.
There we go. There we go. I mean, asking for classic menus, Towelliee. I mean, you think you do. Okay.
Stop it.
But it's although the one thing I do like is the search function.
Yeah,
I think the search function's really
cool.
really nice, and yeah, maybe I'm one of the people. Maybe I'm an outlier, but I do like it. I do like it. It looks clean. Yes, you kind of have to scroll, but the other side, you mentioned it looking like a console game. Maybe this has been brought in because we're seeing a lot more support for controllers.
Nah.
No, I don't think so.
No, you can when you install console port, they make their own. They have their own menus and stuff with the with the controller.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. But no, I don't. It's such a funny thing. I honestly would like to play WoW like laying on my sofa or like sitting on my sofa, I guess. But I don't think it'd be realistic though. I think it'd be a bit shit.
Yeah, just feeling a bit odd, just sat there with the controller going, "This isn't right. This doesn't feel right
like,
at all."
Keyboard? It's a mouse.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, we've sort of briefly spoken about the way that the alpha is going at the moment. It's relatively, I say relatively, it's very quick paced compared to what we usually see. We've seen 2 builds so far. The first one obviously had a zone that you could go in and explore. The second build, you are no longer able to access that zone. The only new quote unquote content is obviously the Evoker starting zone and the 2 new dungeons. And then on Tuesday, which is a week after the last build, we're going to be seeing those will probably be closed off, and then we'll be seeing a new zone.
Starting zone staying around.
Yeah. Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. It's funny actually. A load of people got in this week, and they're like, "Oh, dude, how do I do dragon riding?" It's I'm sorry, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. My bad, the amount of people going, "How do I get to the Dragonflight Islands?"
I went
about
there.
that.
They kicked me out. I got there.
Yeah, same.
They actually, literally today, actually, they did the thing that was actually really annoying because they accidentally reactivate XP, right? So when people hit 61, they couldn't log into their character again. But today, they just unlocked all the characters, so I could jump back on my 68 and play it, which is great. I got all those talent points now. Obviously, it'd be nice if I can go all the way to 70.
Yeah, right.
Specifically testing dungeons that level up to 70.
It's weird. I think like I was thinking if that was a think you do but you don't, because I thought like, oh right, every time you zone into a dungeon, you'd have to do your talent points again or put the extra ones in. But I mean, it's only I don't know how many talent points. It can't be a lot really.
5 each, I think. 5 on each side.
But
I
definitely think they should do that if they really want some real feedback, I guess.
I mean, this feels like
kind of like it's a bit rubbish.
It feels like feedback almost for do these bosses work? Is there anything that is drastically broken? And then we'll get obviously 70 talents, and I think tuning obviously comes further down the line. But this to me feels like just saying, do they work? Is anything broken? Do the abilities work? We can revisit it later. I mean, obviously we've pretty much we've seen a bunch of alphas in the past. I mean, Towelliee, looking at the way that they're structuring this one, where it is very very targeted testing. Is that a good sign? Is that a good change, do you think, for the alpha cycle for an expansion?
Yeah, I mean, I like their philosophy behind it. Just kind of forcing everyone to be like, here, this is the zones that we want to test in this order, and we don't want you getting out of here because we want all couple 100,000 of you in here. And I think forcing us into one zone is actually pretty good because that's all we're going to do. We're going to be in that one zone and we're going to play on different classes, different specs. We're going to try to break the game, Dan over here is going to try to, you know, run into empty walls and try to fly through the world or something and find, you know, because he's a maniac when it comes to doing that kind of stuff. He tries to break everything, and you know, like it's great. I really like it because in the past it was kind of like you have this one zone and it's open, and they unlock the next zone, but then some people just kind of go, this new zone, I don't like it too much. I'm gonna go back to the old one. It's more fun over there. You can't do that now. Now you, which is like you gotta do what we tell you to do. You go here, you go there, and you test. And it's been working because every like the Azure span just always felt like so like full of people. You just see everyone just dragging, riding around and doing their own testing and doing their own stuff. Either that or they're just in front of the Orgrimmar test dummies, one or the other.
Oh yeah,
Dueling
and or
something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
or people putting stuff on the auction house, and I'm sat there like,
there
why?
is people doing that. I was really surprised. Although
Yeah.
the auction house doesn't work. Not that I tried it, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I went to the Argent tournament today on a Drakthir. You know who's doing that? Just me. Just
And
me.
the mounting worked really well. I saw as well.
There you go. Look, reported that. Yeah.
Fixing it. But yeah, I mean, how do you feel about the week long sort of testing? Is that something that you're enjoying at the moment, Dan? Is it good to have that focus testing and trying to, as Towelliee mentioned, break things?
Yeah, I think so. I think this week was a little weaker than last week for sure, in regards to like how much content we have. The starting zone's great. It's a good hour and a half, maybe, and you probably won't do it again, to be honest, in a rush. You're not going to do it like 5 times over or whatever. Whereas if you do like, you know, the Zoo Span place, you'll probably do that a couple times, run around, do some side quests and things. There was so many side quests in that zone, by the way, in the Dragon Isles. I was so everywhere I went, I was like, oh, I'm done. Even though they didn't actually give us the entire story either, which was really interesting. Yeah. I think we got about like 2 or 3 chapters, if that. And then there was just absolutely tons of side quests. But yeah, so I think this week's been the weakest week, but I think like after this week, it's going to be, you know, zone after zone after zone in the Dragon Isles, which, yeah, and then on top of that, there'll be, you know, changes to UI. There's going to be more stuff going on with dungeons, of course, more classes to test. So it's going to ramp up really quickly. But I think this week's kind of a bit of a low liar, a bit of a bad week to start the alpha, if you ask me, Kex.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, I've got to do what I got to do, and I've ran both of the dungeons umpteen amount of times, so I'm excited for something new. Well, yeah, exactly, and I've been giving feedback on the bosses, you know, any bugs that come up as well. So we're coming towards the end here. It's absolutely flown by because there is so much to talk about. However, I'm kind of going to put you both on the spot here, and we'll start with you first, Towelliee. Very, very early days for the Dragonflight Alpha, but does the Dragonflight expansion look like it is going to be Blizzard back on form once again?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. Every time I log in and I get on any one of my classes, like for instance, like Legion's one of my favorite expansions of all time. I love Legion, and Legion made me want to play everything. And I'm a tank. I usually only just tank ever. And Legion was the only expansion that made me go on every class, every spec, try everything out. And I'm getting that same vibe with Dragonflight. Dragonflight makes me want to log into every class and every spec. And I've been enjoying all of it, all the variety of all the builds, of all the current specs that we can play. The dragon writing, the professions revamp, the specializations of the professions. It's giving me like those vanilla TBC profession vibes, and just the lay of the land, just how big it is. I'm not saying this is like, oh, you know, Blizzard going back to its roots, you know, like pure, vanilla BC roots. But I think that we're definitely going to see a different kind of WoW that we've seen in the last 3 expansions for sure.
Yeah, which is, you know, is going to be really nice. I've seen a couple of people that have effectively said, I haven't wanted to play for ages, and seeing all the footage that's coming out of the alpha is making me want to play, which, you know, is a good sign, Same question to you, Dan. Is this a return to form, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think, like for me, even before the expansion was announced, one of the things I wanted was it to go back to kind of basics as such, you know, no overarching system or grind or anything like that. You know, I've really enjoyed obviously the trilogy of Vanilla to Wrath, and I like the way that those expansions kind of function, and I liked how simple it was in a sense, and that we have that. And I think the one thing as well, which is really nice, and I feel like we had this with Shadowlands and probably BFA, and definitely BFA. We had this overarching negativity on a couple of systems really early on, in BFA and Shadowlands, and we haven't had that. At least I've not seen a massive amount of negativity on particular things. Yeah. Some concerns maybe here and there, but nothing like massively like this is going to be the worst. So yeah, I think so. You know, maybe it's hopium, maybe it's copium, call it whatever. But I'm hopeful. You know, I think it's going to be all right. I'm having a good time. I think if the expansion setting is good, it really makes the expansion a lot better. I mean, you know, Towelliee mentioned Legion. Legion was great, like really great. Broken Isles was wonderful. Everything about it was cool. Classes played really nicely. You had a Demon Hunter rolling in, and yeah, and the cadence of content in Legion as well was super good. So, but you know, I don't know.
Fingers crossed.
To it. Yeah.
Yeah, it does feel really solid. Thank you so much to the both of you for taking time out today to talk about the alpha. Towelliee, for the folks out there that may not know anything about you, where can they find you? Where can they find you on the internet?
They can find me on twitch.tv/Towelliee. That's like the South Park character, just Towelliee, because no one could ever spell it right. So I'm just playing WoW all the time. Been doing it for almost 12 years on the platform. So that's where you'll find me. And when odds are 98.999% of the time, I am playing World of Warcraft. That's my passion. And I appreciate you having me on. This has been really fun.
No, thank you so much. It's pleasure has been all mine. And Dan, for the folks out there that maybe want to see some of your escapades as you try and break through the Dragonflight Alpha, where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm on twitch.tv/MrGM, also on YouTube. Just look up Mr. GM. I don't think it is /Mr. GM. I think it's like Mr. GM YT or some crap. Also Twitter. I mean, I'll be there on Twitter, annoying everyone, tweeting like 500 times a day on random stuff. So, twitter.com/MrGMYT. And that's about it. You know, there's some other places I'm at, but it's not really that important. So yeah, that's me. That's where I'm at. Been making a lot of stuff, making a lot of content. Been very busy. Not a lot of sleep, but that's what I signed up for.
It's the life during an alpha.
Yeah. I'm waiting for this.
This has been a long time coming, and now it's here. We're so grateful. And for those of you that want to find me out there, you can find me on Twitter, twitter.com/Kexman. You can also find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/thekexman. And I'll be also streaming a lot of the WoW Dragonflight Alpha, as well as retail WoW, as and when I decide to leave the alpha and go back into retail. But from us here,
Season 4.
Yeah, I know Season 4 is coming out. That's gonna be big. That's going to be huge. That's going to be great fun, seeing all those fated raids and how things can be horrifically broken once again. But yeah, thank you so much, obviously, to both Towelliee and Mr. GM here for joining me on the Dragonflight Consortium. We'll have another episode for you next week. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll see you folks next time.